Mohammed Hijab, I would suggest, represents about 99% of the Muslim world. This is the classical Islam. This is the Islam that never asks any questions any deeper than you just memorize, you just obey. I want to show you why Mohammed Hijab had to ask this question. And I sent you the clip, and I'd like you to put up the clip if you could. Now, before we put the clip up, I want to give some background to it. And I don't know if all of you know who Hatun Tash is. If you don't know, get to know her. She did a trip down to Morocco. She went down to Morocco to do a trip there to do some teaching. And she needed to get a Quran. So she just walked into the first bookstore she could find there in the marketplace and asked them if she could have a Quran. And they said, well, which Quran do you want? She says, what do you mean? Just any Quran. Well, which one? Do you want Hafs? You want Warsh? And they said, what do you mean Hafs and Warsh? I thought there was only one Quran. They said, oh, no, there's quite a few different ones. We have about, I don't know the whole dialogue, but he said there are numerous ones that we have here. He said, well, give me the first one you have. What's the most popular one here in North Africa? They said, here, the Warsh. So she took the Warsh and she came home back to London. And then she now listen, this woman doesn't even speak Arabic. She's not Arab. She's Turkish. But all she needed to do was put the two Qurans side by side. And she saw, oh, this word looks different than this word, or this phrase looks different than that phrase. So she circled them, and she went back to her Arab friends there in London and says, is this the same? She said, no, that's different. No, that says different. And they would translate to her what the difference says. Then she realized these are completely different words. These are completely different verses. These are completely different meanings. In some cases, these are completely different theologies. So she started sending out the message to all her friends all over the North Africa, and she had 26 of these different Qurans. And they were finding not a few differences, they were finding hundreds, not hundreds, thousands of differences. So we talked about it, and I said, why don't we take these down to Speaker's Corner? Let's just hold them up. Look what happened. And take a look and see who's there.
Did everyone catch the Muslims there at the end calling everyone away from those 26 Qurans? Everyone, back up.
Who was the tall man there? Who was it? Do you recognize him, David?
That was the mighty Mohammed Hijab, destroyer of Yasser Qadhi's career.
That was him in that crowd. And he was the one pulling all the Muslims away. Mm-hmm. And I've known Mohammed Hijab all that time, and we've known him for quite a few years. And we've done a few debates there. If you go up on Fander Films, you will see a debate that he and I did, and he's just sitting there going like this, showing his muscles. That's about all he could do in that debate. It was on this very material. It was on this very thing that we're talking about right now. So that was in 2016. We went down 3 different times with those Qurans and held them up. The last time we went down there, we almost didn't leave the corner. They were so upset with us. They did not want us to leave with those Qurans. They tried to grab our bag. They broke the handle. Some of the young men followed us and were trying to get in the way from us leaving the corner. It was such a catharsis for them. They had never come across this before. And as I looked at these young men, you could see that they were having panic. They were having a crisis. And I suggest that Mohammed Hijab was in panic mode as well. He was having a crisis. And that's why I can't prove it, but I think that's why he wanted Yasser Qadhi to put this to rest. No one has been able to answer the question that he couldn't answer back then in 2016. Mm-hmm. He had to pull them out of the crowd. He had to say, come to me, come to me. What would he have told them? Mm-hmm. What would he have showed them? You notice they tried to pull the papers from our hands where we were giving side by side, the Hafs and the Warsh, the Hafs and the Kalun, the Hafs and the Kunbal. We were just showing differences, huge differences. We had about 70. Now, listen, since that time, Hatun and her team have found 93,000 differences. 93,000 differences. She now has 37 of these different Qurans. There are 30 that are considered to be standard, or there are 30 that are now supposedly are the standard 10. You have the 10, which are the readers, and they are Nafi and Ibn Kathir and Abu Amir and Ibn Abi al-Dimashq and Asim Ibn Abi, excuse me for my pronunciation, Hamza al-Zalyat and al-Kisa and Abu Jafar and Yaqub al-Yamami and also Khalif. Those are the 10. Those are the 10 major ones. The first 7 plus the other 3. The first 7 that Ibn Mujahid canonized in 936. Look at the date, 936. This is the 10th century. So those are the first 7 that were canonized by Ibn Mujahid. Now, another 3 were then added by al-Jazari, and he died in 1429. So you're talking the 15th century, another 3 were added. But with each one of these 10, there are 2 narrators or 2 transmitters. And it's the 2 transmitters, which makes another 20, that gives you 30. So that's how you get 30 of these qira'at. Not 1, not 2, but 30 of them. But you can then understand why our good friend Mohammed Hijab had to ask this question. He was having this problem back in 2016, and he was really hoping that our Yasser Qadi, who is a world-renowned scholar who has a PhD in the Quran, has done all this work, is well known all over the internet. He wanted to come and ask this question, a simple question.
By the way, this is very common amongst Muslims, that they think that, well, even if I couldn't answer this question, my leader could, or a scholar could. Right. That is their attitude. That was always like even way back when I was talking to Nabil, that was his attitude. Even if he would get stumped, I do not know how to answer that. He would have complete confidence that there is a solution, that if he just gets the right Muslim scholar to ask him about it, then he can fix those doubts. On this issue right here, because you posted, that was posted back in 2016, watching the Muslim responses, it was all, the first response is, those are different translations. So you have to explain, no, those are different Arabic Qurans. And then the next response is, oh, but those are just differences in pronunciation. And you got to, no, they're actually differences in the text. And then the response is, no, these are just for different dialects. And no, there's something else, right? And they're going down the list. And then it's, well, why don't you debate Zakir Naik on this issue or something like that, right? They really believe that if you get the right guy, if you get the right Muslim scholar and sit him down, he can clarify all this and show you your doubts are silly. Mohammed Hijab gets Sheikh Yasser Qadi, and Sheikh Qadi, we're going to ask you, and you're going to fix all these problems. And all of a sudden, Hijab has to realize, whoa, this is not going the way I wanted it to. I'm going to throw you a softball here. Obviously, you being a great scholar, you could put together, even if you're acknowledging there are all these problems and all these questions we might not be able to answer, at the very least, if I gave you some blank paper, you could write the Quran that goes back to the time of Muhammad. It's not an easy answer. And Hijab replies, yeah, I think it should be an easy answer. And Yasser Qadi's response is, okay, if you want to believe that. But guys, if you think about the position that Hijab was putting Yasser Qadi in, Yasser Qadi has to live a double life. He goes amongst Western scholars. In order to get along and be respected amongst Western scholars, he can't be spouting complete idiotic nonsense like one Quran perfectly preserved right down to the letter from the time of Muhammad. He would be laughed out of Yale for saying something that ridiculous. But on the other hand, he can't be saying the stuff that he would admit at Yale in a scholarly environment. He can't say that amongst your regular Muslims, because it will completely destroy their faith in one Quran perfectly preserved right down to the letter. Hijab forces him into it. Hijab says, all right, here you are. Oh, worlds are colliding right now. Now you tell us something. You tell us something that all the scholars are going to agree with and Muslims can agree with. And Yasser Qadi, nope, can't do it, because these worlds have to be separated. And that's why he keeps saying you can't have this discussion in public. Muslims are not ready for the truth here. And so, Mohammed Hijab, if you want to ask me a question afterward, please do so. But we cannot go on with this.